The bench is finishing the games anyway for them. But, like, are you on the court in crunch time? Which Chris Paul traditionally has been one of the most clutch players, and not just from a figurative standpoint, but from a statistical standpoint, of his generation. So that's what's most important. Forget who starts the game, who finishes it, you know? Anybody trying to turn you into Russell Westbrook.
Right.
On the other hand, though, if you're Chris Paul, your answer should be, hell yeah, I'll come off the bench. I'll do whatever it takes. Like, I've been a starter, I've been the star, I've been the best point guard in the league, I made my money, I've been the Players Association president, I had the State Farm commercials, I done been there, done that, got the t-shirt, damn that looks weird, and I don't have a ring to show for it. So whatever this dynasty needs me to do to get in where I fit in, if I could just get on this train to another championship, I'm down to do it. The end. It doesn't have to be this we'll figure it out. What's to figure out? There's nothing to figure out. Like, I'm just happy to be here. That would be my answer if I'm Chris Paul and I've suffered all the awful bad luck and setbacks that he suffered throughout his career that's denied the point guard a championship. If I'm the point guard, I'm thanking God that that's my teammate now. And I don't care whether I start or come off the bench.
Well, that would be the answer if you were happy to be there. I mean, he's saying that, you know, and he sent the nice little welcome video to Dub fans. But I don't think if Chris Paul would have gotten to be a buyout candidate, I think he would have never chosen the Warriors ever. So, like, yes, that's his team now. I believe he will embrace it because he's a competitor, but it's awkward. And I mean, everyone sort of talked about like the awkwardness about it a little bit, not last night, but just, you know, they've been competitors, right? Like for like really like going against each other. So, but clearly starting matters to him. I think that's what he revealed in the answer. He did say later also in the presser that he still wants to play a couple more years. So maybe he thinks that matters, but I don't think, you know, him not starting means he's not going to play starting minutes. And like you said, I don't think that's going to stop him from being on the floor when they close. But clearly the biggest issue during this Warriors run, and I mean, from how many years you're going back, has always been, what do you do in the non-Steph minutes? It doesn't matter what era they were in. And so for him not to understand the importance of why they need him for that, I can't believe he doesn't understand it, but Steve Kerr is definitely going to be having that Andre Iguodala conversation with him.
That's the best point, the non-Steph minutes. That's, if there has been an Achilles heel, it's been that, and relatively speaking. I'm listening to you make eloquent points, and I'm just looking, I was like, damn, that really is the center of the NBA universe. Like, damn, why did I not go to Vegas? Like, I really dropped the ball on this. Like, who else have you seen, and who else have you run into? Like, just like I did live vicariously through you. Like, who else have you rubbed elbows with? Because everybody there, everybody and their mama there, except for me.
Yeah, except for you. And people were asking about you. I have seen our friends of the show. So
wasn't nobody asking about me.
No, they did. They did. I swear people were asking about you. We'll get into that, but like there was so many people coming up to me, and for me, honestly, it was like, oh my God, people know me. It was weird because, you know, I'm still like excited. This is still new for me. Yeah. So they knew me from Brother from Another. They were like, is Mike here? And I'm like, he did not come, you know? So, but I saw, you know, Kurt Helin, who, you know, is one of our friends of the show. And I saw DA in person, met David Aldridge in person. And I did. Yeah, look, and there you go. Spears.
That's
and then
love
Jay.
Right there.
So I saw some of the crew. Man. I also saw Sam
right
Amick.
There.
Yeah. I saw Sam Amick when I was there. Yeah, just seeing people who come on the show, seeing our people. So it was really, really fun.
Hey, Kurt, look at that.
There is.
It's good
Yeah, she's selling it short, by the way. Not only does everybody like know her and love her, she's like rubbing shoulders with Usher while she's out here. Like she's like 10 feet away from Usher, like hanging, like pointing at him. Like it's everybody knows that.
When I was on the phone the other day, she said, "Yeah, you were supposed to be out here introducing me to people." I'm like, I get the sense it would have been the other way around. You'd have probably been introduced to me to some people.
No.
Yeah, I walked up and she was talking to you guys, you know, J.A., David Aldridge. I'm like, I'm like, do I need to do introductions here? And they're like, no, they're giving her hugs. They're like, hey, how you doing, Nat? I'm like, right, man, I'm just along for the ride, man.
Right there. Well,
it.
and exactly. And see, that's Kurt. That's why you the man. You like, you know what? I'm gonna get in where I fit in. You just low key. We were just talking about a non-rookie, non-Wemby story. We'll get to Wemby in a second, or Big Vic as Big Vince prefers. The Chris Paul situation in Golden State. We're just talking about that. He had his little introduction or what have you, and seated next to Steph. Is that a thing? Starting or coming off the bench? And if it is, should it really matter at this point to Chris Paul?
Should it? No, probably it shouldn't. He I heard you before. Like, he should be chasing a ring. He should be trying to get the one thing that's eluded him. But Michael, you guys know this, and this ain't an NBA thing. The ego gets in the way sometimes. Hey, I'm a starter. I am the point guard. I am the future Hall of Famer. I start. They may end up having to go with the situation, right, where he starts and plays 4 minutes, and then Looney comes in, and then they bring him in with the bench units at, the 8 or 12 minute mark. Like, they're going to have to do some juggling, which sometimes politics of the locker room, man. Sometimes you just got to keep the stars happy, because if Chris Paul's not happy, now you're just messing with the team chemistry, and you've got to keep that smooth. There's just, I think these Warriors have a chance, but like, there's not some huge margin for error for them in the West. Like, they've got to nail it, and Chris Paul's got to be a part of that by buying in and taking heavy bench minutes with that second unit and playing his way. Because you're right, it's even the year they won when they won the title 2 years ago, their playoff minutes without Steph were negative. Like, they couldn't, even in the postseason. It's just, you can get away with it when Steph plays 44 a night.
Yeah. Speaking of unhappy stars, so nothing's really changed on the Damian Lillard front since we last talked last week, Kirk. But there was a report that the Blazers were looking for, 4 first-round picks and 2 quality players, I think was the phrasing of it. And I got to thinking, man, and we talked about this. I'm like, and then since we last talked, but I'm sure Natalie and the gang covered it, Aaron Goodwin acknowledged that he's been telling teams, you will get a disgruntled star if you trade it for Dame Lillard. Basically, don't bother. It's Miami or bust for him. Which brought me back to where I was to begin with. Like, you only have leverage if you have alternatives. So, you don't have a no trade clause. You're saying all you want is Miami. If the Blazers don't trade you to Miami for whatever, whether it involves a third team or not, what is he going to do? Is he going to sit out? And so then I'm thinking back to last summer, Nat, Kevin Durant. Entire world stopped when Durant was like, I want to be traded from Brooklyn. And then he started the season in Brooklyn. He eventually got traded to Phoenix, but a trade never materialized. Like, what is Damian Lillard's alternative if the Blazers do not trade him to Miami? We talked about this last week. I think I was on with Ashley and you came on, Kurt. It's like, he might want to open his mind to some plan Bs, because this thing may not happen, and if it does, it won't happen anytime soon. So I wonder, could he actually just end up back in Portland and be like, you know what, it never materialized, but I'm here to win and nothing to see here, let's just move on?
I think he could open his mind to other alternatives and possibilities, but I'll throw this out there too. Portland and their front office might have to, because the market just isn't there. This is a 32-year-old, as great as he is, he's still a top 10, top 15 player in the league, a guy you can do a lot with, can make you a contender in the right situation. He's 32. He's going to be making over $60 million when he's 36 in 4 years. There is not some long line of teams clamoring to get him right now. And the market is what the market is. You are just going to get what's offered. And if that's 3 first-round picks and a couple of young players, that might just be the market. That might not be what Portland wants. I can tell you it's not what Portland fans out here have told me they want, they're emotionally invested and they want this Gobert-like return. You're not getting it. You're going to get 3 first-round picks. So I think eventually they might come around to it. But for Dame, by the way, what does unhappy Dame look like? I'm not even sure I've ever seen unhappy. Like, what is, I can't picture him holding out. He's not going to go Jimmy Butler in Minnesota.
Right. And who knows that better than Portland, Natalie? So like, am I crazy, Natalie, for thinking that Damian Lillard, he wants to go to Miami, but if it doesn't happen, I don't think he's saying I'm not gonna play basketball. Am I crazy for thinking that he could actually be in a Blazers uniform again?
No, I think he'll play if they haven't gotten something worked out. I don't think he's like that. I mean, I don't know if it could be like an Anthony Davis situation where they try to sit him because, when he was leaving the Pelicans, like they didn't want him playing because they didn't want him to get injured. But I think he'll want to play. Dame's a competitor, but I just also think like the demands. I mean, the Blazers probably are not being realistic, but I also think his demands are a little ridiculous, like heat or nobody. It's like heat or bust. You don't have the leverage to do this, Dame. Like, the whole loyalty thing that people are saying, it's like your loyalty got you that nice big contract, and so
right.
You can't just expect them to. Yeah, you can't expect them to throw away their future. So it's an interesting dynamic between the two. I'm still tired of talking about it. Like I don't
Okay.
I want it to be done. No, I didn't mean it like that, but I want it to be done. Okay. I want it to be done so we can just see what the teams be. But I don't think it's getting done for a while. I don't.
Well,
she just wants to get it done so she can talk about Harden.
Oh, right. But I wasn't going to go to Harden. I was going to say somebody who I thought we were done talking trade about was Zion Williamson. Once upon a time, rumored to be maybe headed to Portland for the third pick that turned out in Scoot Henderson. But I saw Chris Haynes, say that Zion could still be had for the right price, whatever that is. Is there fire with that smoke? Like, is that still a possibility from what you're hearing that Zion could be moved? And if so, to whom and for what?
For the record, by the way, David Griffin was on NBA radio this morning saying, we haven't even brought him up in a conversation. I don't know where all this comes from.
Oh, which means he's off the door.
Yeah, which means, I'm about to say, that comes in a 5-pound bag of fertilizer with everything. Like that's all. What I've heard all along is that they just want a lot, but they were testing the market. There's an incredible frustration within that organization with Zion and, frankly, Brandon Ingram's willingness to do what they feel is necessary to get on the court, to play through some stuff, to be out there when it matters. And so they're open to, you're going to have to blow them away. They think that, man, and they're right. Like, if in an ideal world where Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum all play and all those role players are there, they're a good team. So they don't want to take some huge step back from that, but somebody blew them away. I think they'd really listen. That's kind of the vibe I've gotten talking to people. Nobody's really gone there yet because it's year one of that max deal. And when was the last time we saw him play? But somebody, if he has if he plays well for the first, for 4 months of the season up to the trade deadline, you think somebody would jump in, Natalie?
Absolutely. I know the Knicks would jump in. I don't know how Mariah Mills will feel about him going to another location, but
name that shall not be mentioned.
No, but I mean, obviously, look, Zion's camp, he's always been connected to New York. So you have to imagine if he becomes available. I mean, look, obviously the injuries and stuff with him are always a risk. And a lot of the I shouldn't say the reports, but things that we've been hearing about in terms of, how he takes care of his body, all of that kind of stuff. That would obviously concern any team, but I still have to imagine that the Knicks would probably be one of the number one suitors for Zion if he really does become available and if he's been playing well during the season.
My first summer league experience was actually Zion Summer League, which was an incredible experience.
The earthquake night.
I'm sure it pales in comparison to the electricity around Vegas when it comes to Victor Wembanyama, who within the hour, we learned that the Spurs are shutting him down. He's done. Had a rough outing, relatively speaking, the first time out. Had a Hall of Fame outing the second time out. And we started the show, Kurt, talking about the very high praise. A bigger Bill Russell was the quote from Jerry West. I'd love to know your impressions, having now seen Victor Wembanyama live, in person, and in the flesh in Las Vegas.
First thing I got to say, and Natalie will back me up on this because she's there. We know you can say he's 7'3.5", until you see him physically in person, like how big he is really hard to describe. It is kind of eye-popping, even in a league for those of us who cover the league or around sports. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. Yeah. Exactly. I'm around 6'9" guys and I don't even blink anymore. He walks in the room, you're like, holy. So you get past that. I thought first off, his defense was really good, and that was always like, hey, the floor for him is all defensive level player every year, and I can absolutely see that. Like he's blocked 2-3 since he's been here. He disrupts everything when he figures out who to help off of and when. And his offensive game was coming along. Again, what I've been impressed with, which this is again the first time I've seen it in person, is there's a maturity about him. Like he just doesn't sound like a 19-year-old. He sounds like a guy who just is together and kind of gets it, and that makes A, probably a good fit with Popovich and the Spurs, but B, like those are the guys who figure it out, right? Like those are the guys who work it out, who are just he's not running around immature. He seems very ready for the moment, and that's like the best sign out of all this.
Yeah.
You know who is immature? The people on Twitter who rushed to call him a bust. All of them who got way more attention than they deserve. Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I actually just also go back to that other quote he had. I thought was interesting when he said, like, the game is more physical, overseas than like here, because, it's funny. I was in an Uber and the driver, I was talking to him about it, and he's just like, oh, yeah, they're kind of soft over there. And he's, and I'm just like, are they? But to hear him say that, because that's consistent, like Luka has said the same thing, a lot of the European players have said that, like it's a much more physical game, over there than here. Obviously the players here might be more skilled, more talented, but I just thought that was interesting. So I was just like, oh yeah, he's saying y'all soft. No, I'm joking.
Look,
it was interesting.
I said that the gap is closed if it's non-existent between European professional basketball and American professional basketball. I mean, it might even be the opposite, given how many principles and concepts we've adopted from the European game. So anybody that's still disparaging the European game, the physicality, the level and quality of play is like in the Stone Age. Kurt, I'd love to know who else has stood out to you. I mean, looked like Miami got another one in Orlando Robinson. Casey Wallace has been impressive. Signed his contract and immediately got to work. Anthony Black, Keontae George. And we talked earlier about Scoot Henderson. Yeah. Anybody you want to dive into in particular? Anybody we're missing? Jabari Smith even, with a point to prove, with an axe to grind against Summer League. Anybody else that's jumped out, or whether it's individuals or even just looking at, young cores, in the macro sense, OKC, Orlando, a lot of buzz about some of these young teams and the talent that they've assembled.
I think you just got to my point. With Oklahoma City, you're like, you picture Kason Williams and you're like, wow, that guy's really kind of gets how to play. He's really smart. You know what stands out here? Because you've been here, it's such a glorified pickup game, largely, right? Like it's not the most beautiful basketball you will ever see. And guys who just know how to play, Scoot Henderson showed that his first game, head up, running the floor, getting the ball to the right guys, making the right decisions. It leaps off the page. Kason Williams was doing that, and you're like, wow, you put him next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that backcourt. They got Chet Holmgren up front with Williams, and suddenly you're like, that is a really deep, really good. That team's probably a play-in team now, this season, and they have literally 35 picks over the next 7 years. Like it is ridiculous how good they can be in a few years, and that one leaped out at me. I will also say I liked Keontae George. That guy's a bucket. That guy. I mean, it's summer league, so it flows. Certain guys, it fits their system, but if you can score, man, there's a role for you. And that guy just looked like a bucket.
I'm
Last
curious.
thing I want to get. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Natalie.
I was just curious what you think about Brandon Miller, because a lot of people are still like second guessing whether Charlotte did the right pick. I mean, we only saw a little bit from Scoot, but curious your thoughts on how he.
Yeah, I wrote this morning. I've gone with meh.
Yeah,
it's not
but
bad.
It's summer league.
It's not terrible. It's summer league, and what really ultimately matters is improvement. Like he's looked a little better through a couple games. And what does he look like when training camp starts? And what's he look like a year from now? Because it worries me. You know who's worried me? Jaden Ivins. I really like him, and he has not blown the door. Second-year guys who got regular run who don't come to Vegas and don't blow my doors off, don't come out here and look like Jabari Smith. Just I shouldn't be. Tari Eason, like I shouldn't be here. Why am I here? He hasn't done that. It's a little concerning. We'll see where Brandon Miller is in here, but it's not inspiring. It's not the potential you saw with Wembanyama, how good Scoot looked, how good Amen Thompson looked in his half. That guy's he is the entire athletic package, and you can see what a point guard he is going to be. And maybe Fred VanVleet can mentor him a little bit, and he can slide in there afterwards. Like, there was a lot to like, and then you see Brandon Miller, and you're like, okay. So we'll see where it goes. It wasn't inspiring.
So summer league matters to a point. We know that the postseason is really all that matters. The regular season, some say, doesn't matter as much anymore, which is a problem for the NBA for no other reason other than perception, right? I can't get behind this NBA Cup. And I think, and I need y'all help with this, because like the NBA has a regular season, an in-season tournament, and it's called the regular season. And I'm just like, so you're gonna allocate certain games as NBA Cup group play, then knockout stage. Like there's a prize pool, but like, look, man, these dudes don't care about the All-Star game. Like, what are the stakes here? Like, I know they've been talking about this for a while, but now that I'm seeing the details, I'm like, am I missing something? Am I overlooking something? Is it something that I haven't read or heard that I should be aware of to make me care about this thing? Or better yet, to make players care about this any more than they would a typical regular season game, Kurt? Because if they don't care, why should we care? And so what's the point? This nice new trophy? Like, I just don't get the stakes involved here.
You know, you come back to me in November when you guys here on Brother from Another are skipping a segment of talking about Tua in Miami and what a quarterback he is, so you can talk about the Heat in this tournament. And you get back to me. I'm like you. I'm skeptical. I think they've set it up, honestly, about as well as you can set it up. The games are all regular season games. It's not going to affect the flow. Only two teams play more than one game. You know, like actually, two teams will play 83 games if they get to the title. Which don't count. Doing this we'll see how much people care. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head for me, which is like, this is built into European soccer where they got this idea, but that's also the playoffs. You play a full season to get to the Champions League. FA Cup is your playoffs. We got playoffs. So
yeah.
I just don't think anybody's not going to talk about Alabama football so they can get out and talk about this. We'll see.
Yeah.
Another excuse for Natalie to go to Vegas, though. Natalie, you can go to Vegas and go see Usher again.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.